Hello, everyone. Welcome to Rediscovering Me podcast. It's your girl, Nakia P. If you are tuned in, you are definitely in the right place. Rediscovering Me dives deep into self-discovery, healing, transformation, and so much more. Okay. So on tonight, we have a very special guest. We have life coach and podcaster, Shamona Kirkland. We're going to bring her up and we're going to discuss what she got going on and what she's doing. Shamona, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hi, love. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for joining us on tonight.
Thank you for having me and
All
inviting
right.
me to your platform.
Always. This is what we do, honey. This is what we do. So
Yes.
go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
So I am a life coach, certified life coach. I am also a podcaster. I run a podcast that goes live every Monday night at 8 p.m. And I talk about various topics from political issues that are very popular in today's society to regular everyday life issues like relationships, family issues, building friendships, dating. And also just like talking about mental health, self-care, and just a plethora of other topics. And I love to highlight and celebrate other entrepreneurs on my platform as well. My mantra is to build community through conversation. And so I'm using my platform and my voice to do that. In addition to those two things, I am also a certified peer specialist in the mental health field, helping individuals who have uh, lived mental health conditions or experiences, as well as substance abuse or major life interrupters, become and get sustained employment and get back into the workforce.
I love it. So you're definitely using your voice and your platforms to have these conversations that a lot of us don't like to have. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and I know we're gonna get more into it, but it was important to me to have them. I feel like, one of the things that as a community we lack is those conversations. In our history has been known to like throw things under the rug or not talk about tough topics because it's just too hard to bear or too much to really dive into. But I'm forcing my community to grow through conversation.
And that's very empowering because you're right. We are used to shoving things under the rug. We are used to avoiding our feelings, avoiding, things that are present right in front of us. And sometimes we
Mhm.
act like it don't exist when it does. And so
Mhm.
being able to have these platforms and to, see you using your voice to teach, educate people and have, allow them to have these conversations is very important. So I definitely applaud you for that, love. That is awesome.
Thank you.
So let's get into it. So, with your life coaching, what inspired you to actually become a life coach?
Well, what inspired me to become a life coach is, throughout my life, I managed to be resilient and get through life, right? I was a teenage mom, and I felt like everything that I did to get here, I had to do the hard way.
Mhm.
And I felt like, there has to be a better way. Like, there has to be a way to have someone to like cheer me on, guide me, get me through things. And, you know, I was like, I wanted to focus my career or focus my efforts on being that for someone, right? I had people in my life eventually that would be that for me. I participated in other personal development opportunities like this organization called Momentum Education, which taught through experiential coaching. And basically, they went through like a series of different workshops that help you to become more or to become an expert on you. right? And it had the structure was like basic all the way to advanced and mastery. And in the basic workshop, you basically start to talk about your relationship with your mother and father, the first relationship you ever have in this entire world, outside your conception and your descendants from heaven, whatever, right?
Right.
And so they start you off with having this conversation, or a conversation about your relationship with your parents, and moving into your conversation and your relationship with yourself. Then how do you show up in the world? Then how do you become a leader of your life? And how do you make impact so that you can impact the world that's around you? And then mastery, just bringing it full circle to let you know how all of this is in your hands, is in you, are in control of it, and how do you use this power to learn, grow, and impact the world. And so going through that work, I thought it was so amazing and empowering. And it's, I said, you know what, I need to be a part of this. Like, I need to get, more involved. And so I got certified as a life coach during this process. And it was one episode on, I think it was Atlanta Housewives, where I saw Nene Leakes, who was actually had a life coach. And that was the first time I actually heard the term life coach. And I saw like the process that she went through with this person. And I saw it like play out on television, and saw this woman working with her and talking with her about how to develop her personal experience, even just how to have courageous conversation, better conversations with people where it's not leading to arguments, and really, giving her that push, not like someone that's like telling you what to do, but someone really like guiding you and coaching you on how to be the best you. And I thought that was like amazing. And I felt like everybody needs to experience that. Everybody needs an accountability partner like that.
Oh, yes. And that is true. We do need, someone to help us be more accountable to ourselves, because
Mhm.
it gets slick out here. We
Mhm.
set intentions, we set goals, we say we're going to do this, we say we're going to do that. And sometimes we don't. So I love having an accountability partner. Somebody can be like, Kia, get your tail up, get this work
Mhm.
done, do what you need to do.
Right, right. Right. And it's only about what you want to do. It's not like, okay, what you should do is, it's like, oh, you said you
Right.
wanted to do X. Okay, so how are we gonna get there? All right, so
Exactly.
we gotta change our behaviors. Oh, okay, all right. So we gotta do something new. And just that person that's just only repeating, regurgitating what you said that you wanted to do, not telling you what you should do.
And that's the most important thing. They are able to accept what you said that you want to do. They're not trying to
Mhm,
change that. They're not trying to alter that. They're simply
mhm,
supporting you 100% in what you said that you wanted to do. And they're like,
mhm,
okay, this is what you want to do. Then let's do X, Y, and Z. This is what we need to do to get it done. I love that.
mhm.
So now, with being a life coach, what challenges have you experienced with being one?
Everybody's a life coach.
That they are, that they are.
um, this industry is saturated.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of people who are, seeing the value in this work and feeling like they have the characteristics and the gumption and drive and talent and skills to do so. And so, and that everybody everybody very well may have those skills, right? The challenge is finding your niche, finding what it is about you that makes you stand out. What makes you the life coach that people should go to? What makes you that person that can connect? And you got to realize that um, that is what's important.
Hmm.
That is the important piece of being a life coach. What makes you stand out? And in my journey in trying to find what my niche was, I realized that what I needed to do was self work. I needed to work on me. I needed to figure out what it is that um, where I was, and what were some of the things that, I needed to work on. Where were my blind spots in life, that so that when I am coaching somebody, I'm coaching with authentically. I'm not coaching
Right.
just by the practical skills that I learned from the institution that I went to, World Coach Institute. I was actually coming from a place of experience. I was coming from a place of knowing, and not in a space of knowing everything, but just like having an idea, even being comfortable with saying, you know what, I have never experienced that. Let's explore that.
Right.
Can
Right.
you share more with me about that experience so that I can understand better? And just really being um honest with myself, checking
Hmm.
my ego, like, and
Right.
that took inner work to be able to do
Yes.
that. You know how we are, especially when we're trying to help somebody, we want them to see how smart we are. But I realized that sometimes you have to humble yourself and to be open to learning, even when you're in this position of helping someone.
And that is true. You know, that checking that ego, you're so right about that. Because girl, we get into it. Sometimes we get into it and we act like we know it. We know everything. We know it all. And being able to humble yourself and be like, you know what? I don't know this. You know what I'm saying? I haven't experienced exactly what you have experienced, but we can go through this together. You know what I'm saying? I'm willing to learn and explore. And that is the most important thing. And I think that that's one of the something that we all need, you know, to be able to step back and do that inner work, check our egos and be like, you know what, I don't know it all. You know, one of my sayings is, you know, you got to be willing to learn. You got to be open to learn. Nobody knows everything. We may think we do, but we always have to get to a place of learning and still be able to continue learning, no matter what our age is, no matter our credentials. We have to continue learning.
Right. Right. I think I saw my friend post the other day. She said, if you know everything, you might as well pick out your casket.
Okay. Okay.
There's nothing else to explore, nothing else. Why are you here? You know, and you know, the reality is you do want to stick around to teach one, you know, because each one teach one, right? But the reality is, even in your teaching, you should be learning. Even in your leading, you should be following.
Absolutely.
And it takes a lot of work to get there because we have been taught to simulate into this idea of I got to go first. Right. And so, you know, I think the biggest, most inspiring part of learning to be a life coach is learning to coach myself.
That inner work it's tough. It's a tough road, but it does help us out later. I'm not gonna lie, because you know that self work is that thing is
Yeah. It's dark, it's ugly, it's cold.
Yes, it is.
It's miserable, it's lonely. You find some of your very, you know, I remember there was a time in my life where I realized I was feeling a sense of jealousy. I was like, I don't like that. I'm, you know, because I would have this like, I'm not a jealous woman. You know, I don't feel intimidated by anything or anyone. I'm smart. And then I realized, like, yeah, you were jealous. You were in your feelings about that. Yep, that stung. You were jealous.
and it takes a level of growth to be able to do that. To be able to look yourself in the mirror and be like, girl, you do not have it all together. No matter how much you want to say it, you do not have it all together. And that's okay. That's the whole purpose, is to keep learning, to keep evolving, you know, to keep growing. So I love that. But yes, that inner work is a challenge. It's a challenge. So Shamona, tell us, what type of clients do you typically work with?
So right now, the typical clients that I work with are usually people who actually are doing some trauma work.
Okay.
And that's why the peer specialist work is near and dear to my heart, because I myself have suffered from depression and anxiety. I was also diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and there were some diagnoses of borderline personality disorder. Now, what I would say as a mental health peer specialist and just someone who is in the industry, is important to not allow those labels to like guide your expectations, your perspective of someone, right? Those labels are literally meant to be able to charge your insurance company. But the importance of the labels, or the importance of their validity, is that when you are addressed with a diagnosis or a label, they tell you about symptoms or triggers that can help you to help yourself, right? Because now you are aware of how you show up in the world and what's happening to you and what you're experiencing. So now because I became aware and I have a better sense of my diagnoses, of my triggers, of how I show up in the world, when someone is coming to me with trauma, whether it's from domestic violence, whether it's coming from family trauma, childhood trauma, you know, any trauma. I'm trauma informed, and so my coaching becomes more about strength based than focusing on the abuse or the things that got them uh to that space, while acknowledging and validating the trauma.
Right.
So oftentimes people come to me and they're like, oh, I want to start a business, I want to do this, I want to do that, and I automatically see there's blockers. And in order for us to get past, or in order for us to start working on said business plan, or in order for us to work on said project, I know we're going to have to figure out what are the blockers and what is our plan of action, right? I'm not a clinician, so I don't try to treat someone who has maybe depression or something like that. But I often say, okay, this is what I'm acknowledging. This is what I'm seeing. Do you feel this is your experience? And what are some things you have tried to help you? And I'll tell my story like, hey, I've gone through therapy for XYZ years. Have you considered that? No, that's not something that you're considering. Okay, what are some things you do with self-care? Can we make some self-care goals? Just so I help them be aware that self-care is important and their mental health is important for them to get to those goals. Because what happens is when you're not addressing trauma, you tend to repeat the same things and you tend to procrastinate. Not because you don't want to do the things that you do, but your mind is so bombarded by that trauma, those memories, those inadequacies, that imposter syndrome, the things that you were told that you couldn't, wouldn't be. They're all showing up every time you move towards your goal. So we got to get there, because that's going to continuously be a challenge. So I'm really a trauma informed life coach. And yeah, so they usually come to me with that.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting you to help me build a business plan. I'm like, yeah, before we get there, because we can build this amazing business plan, and none of those deliverables will be met because you don't believe in yourself yet.
Right. Right. And I love that you shared that, because now I know that we have a little bit more in common than I thought, because I've also dealt with depression, anxiety, and was also diagnosed with bipolar 1. So I totally understand. And before I was diagnosed, I had my business up and running, and then trauma happened, life happened, and then I had to go through a process of putting that aside, because I understood I couldn't do business the same way that I did before, because now there's something different. There's some changes that I had to personally make in order to continue. So I like that you said that. And I think that's wonderful that you're actually doing that for clients. Yes, they may want to run a business, start a business, but it's like, hold up, let's work on some other things, that inner work, that inner work first, because if not, you're going to keep hitting the same block, the same wall.
Because folks, this is my experience of myself. A lot of times we want to accomplish things so we can hide what we think is not good enough.
That's true.
Like if I show them how amazing I am, they won't see this. And the reality is, this is just as beautiful as this. My scars are beautiful.
Yes.
And everything. And there was times in my family was like, oh, stop telling people that you have mental illness, stop telling people you have that bipolar disorder. And I'm like, that is my superpower. Because I get to show Black women, I get to show women that regardless of a diagnosis, I was able to raise my 2 children, no ACS cases. My kids have never had any police contact. They're not delinquents. They both graduated from high school. I turned a GED into 2 high school diplomas. Okay. I kept a 15-year plus career. I worked. I paid my own bills. There were times where there were like struggles where I had to depend on the system, but it was quick and it was like temporary every time. Yeah. And I don't have a criminal record. Yes, I've had issues with, my anger, but you can have a fruitful life. I've dated, I've loved, I've got my heart broken. I've had friends, I have relationships, I've had experiences, I've traveled. So just because there's a label on you based on what a doctor or someone has said does not mean that you don't get to experience life. And if I stay hidden and saying, oh no, I'm all good, I'm just me, life is, then it doesn't give that power to individuals that have it. Because then now they're given a life sentence and not even knowing that, no, there's someone out there just like you that's powerful, that's empowering, that's resilient, and you can be too.
Yes. And showing your scars is powerful. It definitely is powerful, because, it allows others that are not at that point yet of revealing their scars, to let them know, hey, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I understand how, when you said your family was like, stop doing this, stop sharing that, I've experienced that as well. But it's like, I can't be me without showing my scars. If I'm going to be
Mhm.
my authentic self and be real with myself, then I have to show my scars, because that's a part of me. That's a part of
And
my
it's going to show up
experience.
in what, yeah, it's going to show up
Yeah,
whether you like it or not, especially in relationships.
absolutely.
I'm still single,
Mhm.
but I know that I have to be open and honest and authentic with anyone that I share my love with,
Yes.
because, I need to know that they're going to stick around when it doesn't look as pretty and packaged as it is right now. Right. I need to know
Right.
that when I'm curled up in my bed and I don't want to get out and I'm crying out, my tears are like dripping all over the pillow, or if I'm just like not in the mood and I'm not calling you or texting you back, that you're not going to give up on me.
Right.
So I need to prepare you. I need to help you understand where
Absolutely.
I am.
And
And then it helps me
communication.
that helps me
Yeah.
evaluate if you have what it takes, my dear, to
Right.
stick, to be here, you know, in this grand palace.
Okay. Grand palace. Okay.
This grand palace.
Yes. I love that. So when it comes to podcasting, you share how you use your talents and your voice and your experience with life coaching. Now, what inspired you to do the same when it comes to podcasting?
um, well, what inspired me to be a podcaster? Well, it started very young with me using my voice.
Mhm.
Um, I was a singer from probably like 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
I was singing in a concert choir who competed with different choirs. We won the McDonald's Gospel Fest in '91. And I was one of the lead singers during that time. And we also sung at I forgot to even mention this before. We sung on Bobby Jones Gospel. I don't know if you used to watch that
Okay.
back in the day. It used to be
Yes.
on TV. We sung at Bobby Jones Gospel, and we just traveled the states, going to different churches, and people loved us and everything. And I like, that was the time like when they put a microphone in my hand, I was going, oh, right. And I didn't even, and then I knew my voice was big. I was very little with this big voice. I'm a
Mm.
soprano. And, that's when I knew I had a voice. But talking came a little bit later, and I started before I used to get in trouble for my talking. My own, you know how when you were a kid, like your elders would tell you like you're not getting up from the table until you finish your food or whatever.
Right.
And my cousins will all be sitting at the table and we're eating and chopping it up, whatever. And I would be and this happened and that happened and telling all these stories. And I was always very like I love to tell a good story, whether it was made up or not. I knew the everything that was going on in the family, on the block. I used to just I couldn't stop talking. I loved it.
Right.
And by the time I would see everybody get up and go outside, and I would look down at my plate and I didn't eat nothing because I was talking all the time. And my uncle would be like, finish that food. It would be all cold, and I would still have to eat it
Right.
before I could go outside. And it never stopped me, but I realized, I love to use my voice and I love to talk. And then moving on into my adult life, life was life and um it was just like things that were happening in my life that just didn't make sense to me.
Mhm.
And I remember like I was going like through a housing issue, and I went to like this local community meeting just to find out answers about what was going on with my life,
Right.
my situation. And I was standing up and I was asking questions and I was pushing back and I was, going off. And this woman came up to me and she was like, "Do you want to come to our housing meeting? You sound so powerful. Like you stood up for yourself and you were asking questions." And I was like, "I guess sure." So they would invite me to all these public hearings to speak on the issues that were going on in the community.
Okay.
And after this kept happening and happening, kept inviting me, like organizations would keep, inviting me to come speak. And I even spoke and debated the NAACP
Mm.
years ago on education. And that was different because all my life I was told that the NAACP was always fighting for Black and brown people. And I'm like, here I am on the opposite side of the NAACP. What's happening? But we just had a difference of opinion on some things. And that was powerful to me. And I'm like, oh, snap, and then I got a job with the organization that what I was volunteering for at the time. And I started doing press conferences. I started doing commercials. I started doing conferences. And I was like, oh, this is a thing. I like this. Talking is paying off now. I'm not getting in trouble for not eating my food. I can do this. And then, you know, I wanted to broaden my horizons because at that time I was only talking about education and social justice issues that were in the interest of whatever organization I was volunteering for and working with. I was also the president of the Community Education Council in my district. So I just was always in front of a microphone talking about something. And so after a while, my best friend and I, we decided we got asked to do a radio show on WBAI to talk about issues that matter to Black women. It was called Rise Up with Shanixa. It was on WBAI 99.5 FM. And we ran that for a little while. Our first actual segment was during Women's History Month. And we went for about 6 or 7 months, and then she had to move on to a different career, and nothing was like working out with the radio show. And I got a little discouraged during that time, and I was like, how am I going to continue to get my voice out? I wasn't working for the organization. I wasn't really volunteering as much. I became a rebel rouser. People stopped inviting me to speak because they was like, oh no, she's not on anybody's side.
I understand.
She's not on anybody's side. She is just doing her own thing. We can't, because when somebody has an agenda, they want you to be on the agenda. Right. And I just wasn't. I had my own opinions. I had my own perspective, and I wanted to share my voice on that. So I got a little discouraged. So I was like, okay, now we don't have the radio show. What am I going to do? And I took a break from like social media and everything just to do some, to do some inner work to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. And I was like, podcasts is popping up, everything. I was like, oh, that's what I can do. And I just decided, okay, during, in honor of what I started in the beginning with WBAI during Women's History Month, decided to do a Monday night chat podcast. That's what I called it. It wasn't even a big deal, the Monday thing. I was actually only off on Monday. Like, I think people probably think Monday is my favorite day. I was just only off on Monday because I had 2 jobs. Right. And so I was like, okay, you call it Monday Night Chat with SK. And I was only going to do it for the month of March in 2022. And then it just became a thing. People enjoyed it. People enjoyed being guests. People enjoyed the conversations. They enjoyed the things we were talking about. And I was like, okay, I got to go for it. And now I will be celebrating 2 years this March that I've been doing Monday Night Chat. And I've had over 100 conversations. So it's a thing.
Awesome. And let me tell you, I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. I love the conversations that you're having. I love your consistency, all of that. So one thing that I want to ask you before we close up is, can you tell our guests exactly how they can connect with you for Monday Night Chat with SK, and how they can connect with you for life coaching as well?
Awesome. Sure. So right now, I'm still building my website. So I use my Instagram page, my Facebook page, and I also have a community through Mighty Network that I can also share with you, Nakia. So you can find me on Instagram at Shamona K1, and you can find me on Facebook as Shamona. I have TikTok, so you can just look me up, Shamona Kirkland, and you can find me through there. As far as making an appointment or schedule some coaching sessions, you would email me at shamona.kirkland@gmail.com. And I can schedule some time with you and then send you out my Calendly, and you can set up time during my work coaching hours. But, if you want to be a guest on Monday Night Chat, please reach out. Even if you want a session and you don't have my email, you can also DM me for that as well. But I love new guests. If you're doing something amazing, you're up to something amazing, please join me if you have a perspective about any issue. Because nothing is off the table, because any human experience that we are having in our society is important. And I'm sure somebody wants to hear about it. So if you want to come on and share, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to promote your business and what you're up to, please just reach out to me. I'm all for it as well.
Awesome. Well, Shamona, I want to say thank you so much for coming and just sharing, your life and your your talent with us and sharing everything that you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. And like always, I'm here, just like you told me, girl, I support you. So you already know. So thank you
I
so much.
got your back,
I
girl. I
got
got your
yours.
back.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
use I love to use my Black girl power. So
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
I can do to support you,
Oh, yeah.
I'm here
Absolutely.
for it. I'm
Absolutely.
here for it.
So thank you so much. And listen, guys, make sure that you continue to follow. Make sure you support, because you know how we do. Okay, we support each other. So make sure you support Shamona. I will make sure that I post her information under this video. Okay, and also make sure you stay tuned, because Shamona is also our January cover for Healing the Goddess Within May. Okay. So
Excited
you'll
for
be
that. Thank you
hearing
so
so
much.
much more from her and exactly what she do. So thank you again, Shamona. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right, you do the same. All right, guys, make sure you join in next Thursday. We have another amazing conversation that's going to be happening. As always, I'm your girl, Nakia P, and I'll see you next time. Have a great one.